All right, let's go ahead and get started. For those of you that just joined, welcome to today's Skills Kickstart session on warehouse reports. Your presenters today are Jarvis and Evan. They've got some great content to cover for you today. My name is Jocelyn. I'm going to be your facilitator for the day. We want to make sure that we can get any of your questions answered you have about any of the content we're going to talk about today. So throw those questions in the Q&A or the chat, and we'll have some time at the end to go through all of them, make sure we get those answered for you. And with that, I will hand you off to Jarvis and Evan.
Great. Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming to our Skills Kickstart on warehouse reporting. My name is David Jarvis, and I'm a customer support engineer here at Encompass. I'll be presenting with a colleague of mine. I'll let him introduce himself.
Morning, everyone. I'm Evan Garner. I'm a senior support analyst here at Encompass. And absolutely thrilled to be here with you today.
Thanks, Evan. Our agenda today will be to go over some recommended warehouse reports. This will include some canned reports, actionable reports, and people management reports.
All right. And our goal, what we want you to be able to take away from this presentation is to understand the warehouse fundamentals, what reports you can use, to apply those warehouse fundamentals. And in general, it's going to be directed mainly at newly promoted and newly hired warehouse supervisors, but you may learn something as well if you're not in one of those positions.
We will discuss 6 reports today. Some may be familiar to you already. We have the warehouse inventory status and warehouse inventory bins reports, the possible expire before selling, potential warehouse out of stock, and the warehouse productivity and pick productivity reports.
All right. So we're going to kick it off with some canned reports. Now, these are pre-built reports that you can use. The first one we're going to start off with is the warehouse inventory status report. Good thing to know about this report is if you're WMS or non-WMS, this report is going to work the same way, whichever one you are. It's operating off live data straight out of your database. So when updates are made, the report should show it. Basically what it is, it's going to give you a high level overview of your purchases and your invoices. Think of it kind of like a snapshot into your inventory at the moment.
Hey, Evan, how do you get to this report?
So great question there, Jarvis. And all of these reports, there's going to be several different ways, but let's go ahead and navigate to this one. One of the easier ways over on the left-hand side, if you'll hover over that, you'll see the bars expand with your links there. Go down to warehouse, yeah, and warehouse home. Once you've gotten here, you'll see links, reports, tables. That status report is actually the very top link there in the reports section. And this is the warehouse inventory status report. It's going to work basically like any other report will work. You've got your filters here up the top. The results will display at the bottom. Over on the left-hand side, if you want to customize what columns you can or can't see, you're more than welcome to do that. Just check or uncheck any box that you want to make an adjustment to before you hit create report. Now, as far as filtering these down, let's say I'm a new warehouse supervisor and I want to look at some IPAs. Let's just pick one out of the blue here. Go ahead and go with product 3235, if you would. Type that in and select it and click OK. Now, that being said, we're in a test database and there's 3 locations here, but I only work in one location, so I don't need to see the other warehouses. So I can also filter that down, and let's go with Sterling. Beautiful. Now, when I click the Create Report button, you'll see the data start to display down here at the bottom. May take it just a moment. Perfect. So that is your report, and there's not a huge amount to it, but there are a couple columns that I do want to call out and kind of explain what they are. The first one being that inventory column. Inventory can be kind of vague because it can mean several different things. In this instance, it means the sum of all columns except for pre-sales, allocated, and available. This number is representing the total inventory owned. If you go across to the right, purchases, invoices, we kind of know what those are. The next one that may, cause some questions is that unsellable column. And we'll see we got some nasty red numbers there that are in the negative. Now, what unsellable actually means, that's the total inventory in bins that have a bin zone type of adjustment. That being said, how do you get a negative number in an adjustment zone? You found some product, and we'll dive off a little bit deeper into that with the next report on how that actually happens and how we can find things like that. Moving on past that one, on floor, that just means the total inventory within the bins that have a bin zone where on floor equals true. Pre-sales are exactly what you would think they are. It's pre-sales. And available, that is your on floor, that is pre-sales and allocated removed. So that being said, let's move on to the next report and let's take a deeper dive into that unsellable and how we get that value.
Yeah, next up is one of my favorites, and it should be in use at your company already. The inventory bins report is a canned report and is updated in real time. It is built off the bin inventories and bin trans tables. One way of getting here, and it's kind of a cool way, is if you're already working in this inventory status report, you can click upper left-hand corner, there's a tab and it says bins. If you click it, it'll take you to the inventory bins report, and it will take you with the filters that you've had already selected. So we see that hazy IPA product and the Sterling location. And it'll show you, once you create the report with those already put in filters, all the bins that have active bin inventories for that product in that location. On the left, you'll have a bunch of columns that you can choose. The default is just like the start and end inventory and the product ID and bin. These columns should mirror the fields on the bin trans table. So it's something that you can look at. You can bring in whichever ones you want or leave it as is. The filters on the right are pretty self-explanatory. Ones we see used most often, you can filter to a specific bin if you know which one you want to look at. You can also do specific bin zones, which are groupings of bins. Also, you have some product-related filters like product type, supplier, things of that nature. This report can be used for many reasons, such as reviewing the adjustment bin after counts. So let's say we want to do that. We can get rid of the product filter. We can filter to the bin zone of ADJ, which is adjustment. So say a count just came in and we want to see what are all the variances that were sent to our adjustment bin, because usually you want to either reconcile the adjustment bin or maybe there's some high variances you want to investigate. One really cool option too is there's a column all the way down. It's called approximate value. If you are ready to say do a write-off and you want to see what like the financial impact of these variances are, you can choose approximate value. And it'll show you kind of what that financial hit would be. Another really cool tip is, if you're looking at these adjustment bin variances numbers and you want to know like what you want to know what are the biggest variances, because sometimes you don't have all the time in the day and you may not worry about the ones and twosies. You want to know about the big hitters, the ones that probably need to be investigated and recounted. There is an order by filter. If you click it, it's absolute end inventory. If you create report, it will order by the biggest variances at the top. So you're not having to scroll through, this giant report to find the big ones. It'll put them all at the top. It'll make it easier for you to focus on what you need to investigate.
So quick question, Jarvis. Let's take that IPA from the last report. How would we investigate that one and why it had that number?
Yeah, no, great question. So we can see it here, the 3235. We can also, go back and put it in the filter at the top. But for investigations where you think inventory is off in your system, please keep in mind that this report is built off bin trans. And those records are retained for 100 days. So if you're not staying on top of things, it may be hard to find out what happened if it's, over 100 days ago. This report can help pinpoint which bin inventories look off. So you can then go to the bin audit dashboard to see what happened, who did what to get that inventory value. So let's take a quick look at that. So even though the bin audit dashboard isn't a report, I'm always going to recommend that it should be part of your, your daily use in order to investigate. You can get there by searching for bin audit in the universal search bar at the top. It's under the links section. What it gives you is a bin field, a product field, and a start date. So we do know from the warehouse inventory bins, like that demo testic hazy IPA, it was in the 80J Sterling bin. You know the product ID or name can be typed. And the system will default to about a week previous, maybe two, maybe a little bit more. But what I like to do is open it up to like a month previous or 2 months previous, just to kind of get a healthy view of all the bin trans that have happened to this, just to kind of see why did that value get into that field. The bin audit dashboard, what it's doing is it's taking the bin trans table and all records and making it more easily digestible. So what we see here is we see that there has been an inventory adjust for negative 128 num units. You can see the user that did it and when they did it. So if this is a questionable, like, hey, I don't believe we should have negative 128 in the adjustment bin, you can see who did what and when. Now, there is a human element to all of these things. The system cannot tell you why. So it emphasized doing, these types of investigations more frequently. So because memories can fade. So you can see that this user did it on 9/23. You believe that it, may have been done in error. You can go speak to the user. It could be a trainable unit or a trainable example, or maybe a move didn't happen and you can get that corrected. What's really nice about this as well is you can click on the action. It will take you to the relevant bin trans records. So if you need to see a little bit more in detail of how the adjustment bin got those units, you can see that this user on 9/23 did a bin count of this specific bin. The difference between what the system thought was in that bin to what the bin count was 128 units. So in essence, the system goes, oh, you have 128 more units than you thought you had. So what happens is it gives that 128 units to this bin, and then that product has to come from somewhere. And that's why it is pulling 128 from the adjustment bin. And that's why it's going negative. So that's why you can see negatives in your adjustment bin. That usually means you're writing in product into your warehouse. Now, if you had said, oh, I had 128 units less, then what happens is you're taking that 128 units out of A16E and you're putting it into the adjustment bin. And that's when you'll see adjustment bins go positive. Another reason why you want to do these sort of investigations frequently is because you may have multiple instances of this product happening over time. So you may have like 500 plus and then 600 negative and all of that. It can be confusing when you're not doing it frequently because you don't know, like, okay, why did this 500 happen? Why did this 600 happen? Doing it more frequently, you can pinpoint specific examples, easier to investigate, and in essence, the water isn't muddied. Next up, we'll talk about some actionable reports.
Thank you, Jarvis. So these are better in my opinion because these are reports you can actually do something with. Now we'll preemptively do something with. So as a new warehouse manager or supervisor, whatnot, one of the key reports you'd be looking at is going to be the possible expire before selling. It's the first one we're going to go over here. It does basically what the name says it does. Just quick cliff notes of it. It's going to give you a view into your close dated products. It's going to show you what the on-hand inventory is for that product. And it's also going to give you a few key averages that can help you make decisions within your warehouse. So to get to this report, like I said, there's several different ways. We'll go a different way this time. In the top right-hand corner, you've got the universal search up there. We'll go to report library. Now there's going to be a ton of reports in here. And I do advise looking through all of them, but this is going to be an operations report. So at the top, you'll see you can click on operations there, and it's going to narrow it down to just reports that have to do with operations. You could try to find it in here. You don't have to. You've got a search bar up there at the very top. In there, if you type in, I believe expire or possible, yeah, either one works. Right there it is. That's an easy way to filter through those reports if you do know what you're looking for. So if we go into the report here. All right. So one of the first things you're going to notice on this report is you don't have that filter section at the top. That's because this is a Fusion report. When I say Fusion, that means it's using the data warehouse. So this data is not going to be absolutely live data. There's about a 15 to 30 minute sync time before you'll see updates occur in here. Now, that being said, you can still filter and change things. It's just moved over on the left-hand side. You can change, Jarvis, if you would, go ahead and click on layout. And then, okay, in layout, you can change what you're seeing as far as the fields. If you move down on the left-hand side, you can click on filters. We can filter this down to the location you're wanting, or really just add what you need to make the report say what it needs to say. Now, that being said, we said it's possible. It does come out of the box in a pretty good format. On the left-hand side, you're going to see the location, product number and name. That one's fairly obvious. The expiration date. Now, that's one I do want to call out because that is actually going off the FIFO layer. So if we look at the next column, just to skip ahead, on hand remaining, we got 51.50 of that shiner box there. That doesn't mean we only have 51 of that shiner box. That means we have 51 in that FIFO layer that may be expiring. Moving on to average daily sales, it's what you think it is. Estimated days of remaining inventory, that's just a math problem between on hand and average daily sales and that expiration date. Days until expiration is doing that math for you. And then over on the right-hand side in red, that is a handy way to just quickly glance and see what may be expiring before you can actually get it out of the warehouse stores. Fairly straightforward report. If you have any questions, please let us know here at the end. I'll hand it over to Jarvis for the next report.
Yeah, the next actionable report is the potential warehouse out of stock report. This is also a Fusion report comparing on-floor inventory, average daily sales, and when or if you are going to receive the next shipment of that product. The report will show you if you are expecting to run out prior to the next receipt of a product. The actionable part of this report would be if you need to say, enter a shipment and purchase of a product, because maybe you have the BOL and it's about ready to be received and you're just missing that. Or if you need to speak with the team that handles the ordering of the product that say, hey, we need to get some more of this ordered. We're probably going to run out run out of the inventory before we receive the next shipment. It also could be that if it's a popular product and you have a lot of communication with sales, to let them know, hey, we're probably going to run out of this product before we get it in. Just keep that in mind when trying to sell it. This report has filters that default to sales days of 30. So you can increase or decrease depending on if you know that certain customers buy certain products more cyclically. The columns and headers are pretty self-explanatory, where you've got your product. It is grouped by location, warehouse location. Got your on-floor inventory, the average daily sales, which again is using that the number of days that you put in, and it defaults to 30. It'll calculate the days of inventory that you have left, and then the next received date and next received units, looking at the purchases table and purchase trans to see, hey, you've got like this one, it's coming in on a certain date of this amount, but you're going to run out. You have 1 day of inventory. You're going to run out prior to the receipt. So it'll give you a little visual indicator on the right with, it's going to be red and say yes. There also is a filter that if you want to include no's, you can, but it's defaulted to yes, given you may not really want to see all of the ones that you aren't projected to run out before you receive the next shipment. Now we'll go on to the people management reports.
Good deal. All right. So the first report we're going to go over in these is going to be the warehouse productivity report. And report's kind of a misnomer on it. It's actually a dashboard because it's several reports all combined into one dashboard to make it easy for you to view and easy for you to see some key things. Some of the key things that it's going to show you is going to be your warehouse KPIs, your top variants. We'll talk about that one here in just a moment, as well as some information about replenishment and directed replenishment. Now, to get to this one, I've already shown you two different ways. Here's the simplest way. If you know where you're going in the upper right-hand corner in that universal search bar, I know I want to go to warehouse productivity, so I'll just type in warehouse. And then you can type in productivity as well. You'll look and you'll see it there in the dashboard section. Just go ahead and click on there, and that's going to carry me directly where I'm wanting to go. So if you do know the report you want to get to, a lot of times you could just type in up there, go straight to it, and save a couple clicks. That being said, so there are no filters on this report because, like I said, it's not a report, it's a dashboard. What there are values. Now, on the left-hand side, you see warehouse productivity, those cases to replenish. What those are, that's when pick rules are applied, the pick pending and the bin pick pending value is updated. That's what it's showing right there. It's counting the instances where the pick pending is greater than the bin inventory. Beneath that, replenishment's needed. That one's fairly straightforward. That's going to be the unique products that need to be replenished. And then beneath that, if we can flip back, Jarvis.
Oh yeah, this is
There's a few more
test
values I want to show
database.
you because the way this dashboard works, if there is not a value in your report, it's not going to show it to you because there's no reason to show you a column or a section that has a zero value in it. So we do have an example pulled up here in the slide where we have all the values filled out so that you can see what is available. The last one that I was going to talk about is that cases in directed replenishment and that little wheel beneath it. Now, this one's a little bit obscured because it's dependent upon your directed replenishment setup or if you have directed replenishment set up. And basically what it's looking for is it's looking for what replenishments are we expecting. These are based on move tasks that are created for directed replenishment. So you may or may not have data there depending upon your setup. Now to the good stuff. We have boxes across the top. Now, I mentioned we would go over that top variance, that very first one in a little bit greater detail. That's an important one. That is, I mean, it is literally just picking out of your database the highest variance count that you have at the moment. In this one, it looks like it's water, and we have a variance of 726. What it's doing is it's calling out that product and that count and saying, go look at this because this may be wrong. That's a big number. So it's just a quick way to give you an indicator. You might want to check that one out. Now moving across to the right, products in receiving bins, that's what you think it is. It's products that sit in a receiving bin. Now your pickers can't pick it until it's actually been placed into a pick bin. So your goal here is to keep that number as low as possible. If it's running up, then we're not placing product into our pick bins. Moving across products and adjustment bins, this is just an indicator saying how many products we have in adjustment bins. But what we're looking for in that is if that number gets too high, we might want to take a look at our adjustment bins and start writing out product so that we're not, once again, like Jarvis said, muddying the waters with a whole bunch of product history that's already gone. So it's just a health indicator. And then counts with variance is kind of the same thing. That's just the number of counts that have a variance. And that could be a product issue or that could be a counts issue. But it is giving you an indicator that if that number is higher, let's go look and see what's going on there. Beneath that, it's just your warehouse workers and their productivity numbers. They're kind of what you would expect them to be based off the labels. But if you have any questions on those, I'd be more than happy to answer them here at the end. And with that, I'll go ahead and hand it over to Jarvis for our next people report.
Yeah. The next is the pick productivity report. It's best shown through the pick productivity dashboard, which you see here on the screen. You can click into it from the dashboard itself if you were to click down where your pickers' names are and their stats. Your team must be using ePick to see accurate data. It is not updated in real time since it is a Fusion report and is updated with the data warehouse. We do have two versions of this report. Just like the warehouse productivity, you can get to it by typing into the universal search bar in the upper right-hand corner, also through the report library. As I mentioned, the two versions of the report. The current version is defining shifts as when your team starts picking pallets for a certain delivery date and comparing that to when they finish the last pallet for that specific delivery date. The legacy version will take when your picker users, are logging into ePick, starting to pick, and when they log off. If your team picks pallets for a certain delivery date over many days, then you'll want to use the legacy version since the current version can say that your users pick shift hours that were more than 24 hours, and that can be kind of confusing. But keep in mind that if you're using the legacy version, you will want to ensure that your pickers are following recommended practices about logging off when they're done picking. This will help give you the most accurate shift or pick hours, shift hours data. This report is best for seeing users picking statistics and can help lead to discussions about productivity, maybe if you need to switch some pick teams around to help certain users get larger pallets or different pallets. Also, it's good to have the team be aware of their own productivity and their own statistics if that's something that your company wants to do. The dashboard itself, along with the report, is pretty self-explanatory. It'll show you the number of pallets that have been picked, also in terms of a percentage of the total number of pallets available. The cases broken into eaches and as well as kegs. As you see in the bottom, there are the pickers' names, their cases per hour, the total number of cases, their pick hours, and pallet counts. We'll finish off with a few key takeaways.
All right. So some key takeaways, what we want you to understand when you leave here today. First of all, tell Encompass what's happening. And by that, I mean, it is a database. It's a data management system. So if you put in bad data, when you run these reports, you're going to get bad data back out, and it's not going to help you at all. So definitely, if it physically happens in the warehouse, it needs to be entered that way in Encompass. Review your actionable items frequently. This goes back to what Jarvis said about there's a human element to this. We are entering this data as people, and people make mistakes. And we also have memories. So if you're not reviewing them consistently and going back to them, the farther it is away from that event actually happening, the more skewed a person's memory is going to be. So we review them very frequently or as frequently as possible. That being said, the tools you can use to accomplish these first two is canned warehouse reports. These are pre-built reports. It's simplified reporting with a whole bunch of filters. You can actually manipulate it to make it work for you. They're going to have the fastest run times, the fastest refresh because they're running off live data. And like I said, the filters are easy to change. Now, if you want something that's a little bit more robust, or you need to drill into something very specific, in the reporting library, there are a ton of reports. And I do suggest hopping in there and just looking through them. Most of them are going to be Fusion based. And when they're Fusion based, they're extremely customizable. You can go in, add filters, parameters, whatever it is you need to make it happen. It can most likely be done. That being said, they're a lot more complex. And with them being more complex, we do offer training on that. You can get Fusion certified. It's a training course we do offer, and I suggest it if you are going to be using Fusion reports in any type of depth.
Yeah, there are many pre-made reports, so please spend some time looking through the report library, specifically the operations reports. Go through, as you see, there are a ton, even within other areas as well, if it's something that you are interested in. Also, always recommend looking through the help resources. That's something that we are constantly putting out every day, new ones. Also, they may already have a help resource made for a specific report that you're interested in. Always recommend that. So yeah, thank you so much for your time.
All right. Thank you, Jarvis and Evan. I'm going to give everybody a little bit of time here to put in all the questions that you have for them. Now's a great time to get any of your questions answered. So go ahead and throw those in the Q&A in the chat. If you don't have any questions, once you leave the webinar, there will be a survey that pops up. We would really love your feedback. It's really short, just a few questions. So if you can complete that once you end the webinar here, that would be great. And because we were talking about Fusion reports, next week we are doing a Fusion for Business Users Skills Kickstart that will help you put in those different filters and change around the structure of those reports. So if you're curious about how to do that, join us next week for that one. You can register for that session on our e-learning dashboard on support. So go ahead and check that out. We have a few more sessions coming up the rest of the year. So I'd love to have you back. I do have one question for you both. This one is about the bin inventory report. And their question is, will the date field let you compare day over day?
If I'm understanding this question correctly, it has a start date and an end date. What it's doing is it's looking at the bin transactions. So bin trans table is dated. So day over day, not exactly, but it's giving you a range, a time frame. So your beginning inventory is, as the system is trying to calculate back, it's taking what the system believes is on, say you did a January 1st through current or whatever you put that end date. So it's not saying, you know, the first, the second, the third, the fourth, but it's showing over time you started off with, say, 100, you ended with 200. What there, you can adjust the filters to say, you know, what sort of bin transactions happened over the course of that time. So the comparison of day over day, not so much, if I understand your question so much, but it'll tell you over the course of that date range, it changed from, you know, 100 to 200.
Hey, Jarvis, could
Awesome.
they use the bin audit to see that? Just literally track and see the history for that bin?
If you have specifically for the bin itself, 100%, that bin audit will give you all those bin trans more digestible, easier to read. So specifically for a bin and a product, you'd say, you know, January 1st to today, it will show you all of the stuff that happened. So, and it shows, you know, beginning, num units, end, and you can kind of see that natural flow of how did I go from 100 to 200?
I haven't seen any other questions come through here. If you have one, go ahead and throw it in there. The recording of this session is going to be posted later today on the recording archive, or you can find it in your help resources too. If you just search for warehouse reports, you'll be able to find it there. If you've missed any of our past sessions, you can also find those on the recording archive, or if there's something specific you're looking for, try looking through help resources. We have all of them posted in there for you. And I don't see any other questions, so we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you, Jarvis and Evan, for your time today and talking to us all about warehouse reports. And I hope everyone has a good rest of your day.